What's up, Infected, and welcome to Quarantine. This is Kickstart Your Week, so if you're not familiar with that, what this is my weekly segment that I go over the past week's Kickstarters that I thought looked interesting, and with so many Kickstarters out there and so little time, I used to do it where I would narrow it down to 10, but my time has gotten a little more tight recently, so I narrow it down to my top 5. Then I give, what my favorite Kickstarter this week was as well, and maybe talk about that a little more. Now, there's no hard, fast format of this. It is totally biased, and it's really, again, don't have a whole lot of time. I look at the Kickstarter page, I just kind of take it at face value. I don't do a ton of research, so the games I mentioned here might be bad, but they're ones that just kind of at a glance, a passing, skimming over things, maybe watching the initial video or something, looked really, really cool. Now, if you do like this segment here, I try to do a lot of the time a weekly, sometimes we'll skip a week or two, but for the most part, it's a weekly or bi-weekly podcast with the Gamerati. Those guys are pretty cool. We all basically pick one Kickstarter that's currently on Kickstarter. We talk about it, why we think it's cool, and it's kind of like this, but rather than, I just generally go over and briefly skim over something. That one, you pick one and you research into more and look a little deeper into it. So definitely check them out. They'll be down in the description. They're pretty cool guys. It's really entertaining. So let's just get into it. All right. First up, we're going to be talking about Edge of Darkness from AEG. Now, Edge of Darkness, from what I understand, is actually the same guy who made this. I guess he made this game as well. So it's a fairly similar concept. It's got the card crafting system where you have clear plastic cards basically that you have to sleeve, because as you put more cards in this sleeve, the cards are see-through and only what's visible now shows, so you can upgrade your cards and add symbols and make them a lot better, and it seems pretty cool. But then on top of that, it's a worker placement where you're, I guess, placing these cards out. But the cool thing is, as you upgrade these cards, the opposite side of everything you put into it is actually bad guys and are bad cards. So throughout the course of the game, you're going to be adding these cards to like this really cool dice tower similar to Shogun. It's a cube tower, and you're going to be adding those to it, so you could get this like awesome card that you've built that's just super powerful, but now it's a bad guy that you guys have to fight because you've made it so strong. Now it's a villain. And I thought that was really neat concept. I like when games kind of punish you for making your stuff better. Some people don't like that. I think it's really cool because then there's a lot more you have to think about. Okay, how badly do I need this? But on top of that, it seems like it has slight elements of deck building to it, but instead you're building a community deck. So anytime you play your cards, they go to a community deck, and anytime anybody else plays your cards, they come back to you. So the cards that you're playing, as you make your deck or whatever it's called better, you're actually giving your opponents the opportunity to also use those cards against you. So again, it kind of adds another tactical kind of, how do I want to spread it out? Do I want to have one super powerful card or one or two cards? And I love when games do stuff like that. And then on top of that, I like Shogun's Cube Tower, and this kind of has the same thing, but instead you throw them up in the top, and rather than only some of the cubes come out, they all come out, but it splits in between 3 segments, and that's where the villain cards are at. So it's like that's which one actually winds up attacking, and it overall looked neat. I like most of AEG's stuff, and I'm a big fan of Mystic Vale. It's still in my collection. Next up is the Essence. Now, the Essence claims it's a deck-building city builder, which I thought looked interesting. Now, without watching all the different videos and reading everything that's on the page, I wasn't able to get a whole lot of information on this one. First and foremost, I love the artwork. The artwork's really, really nice. There's also some boobies on the page, which is doesn't actually show boobies, but it comes pretty close, which I'm a big fan of. But the artwork itself, aside from some nice boobies, is the artwork itself is really, really cool. And from what I understand, you're trying to basically become the most powerful or have the most influence in this city, and so you're trying to build it in order to get that influence. And it talks about non-random battles as well, so I guess you're fighting each other for dominance. And then the theme is also really cool because you have it's a magic punk theme, so it's like kind of futuristic, think steampunk, but instead of, you know, steam powered, it's all magic powered, but with this steampunk setting, if that kind of makes sense. And I thought that was really interesting, and apparently you're going to be building like a tableau with these cards that you bring, and you're building this part of the city in your tableau. Like I said, there's not a whole lot of information on it, but it did make the list because, you know, again, the artwork, and I like the theme, and the whole deck building city builder really sounds interesting. How they pull that off, I don't really know. Next game on the list is Donning the Purple. Now, I like the Roman era, so right out of the gates, the game kind of appealed to me. But it's not a historical Roman era game, essentially, from what I can tell. Rather, what it is you have 3 different roles. So the game plays 1 to 3, optimal of 3. You have the Emperor, I think it's the Emperor, the heir to the throne, and the Senator. And those are the 3 powers. And you're basically trying to get the most power and basically rule Rome. So they each of the 3 different roles have different win conditions. So like the Emperor needs to keep the people happy. Well, as long as people are happy, you're getting points for that. However, like the Senator, if you're able to get senators to your side and help your cause to, I guess, like overthrow the Emperor, you get points that way. And if you're the heir, I don't really remember what it said, how the heir gets points, but they all kind of gain their own points their own way. But on top of that, there's a lot of hidden agendas. So like everybody's got their own agendas and like extra ways you get points. And from what it sounds like, you get a lot of points for these. So maybe I cooperate with you for a little bit, but then I stab you in the back afterwards because it matches my agenda. And so it forces kind of a lot of treachery and backstabbing and threats, and sometimes idle threats and empty threats, and sometimes you gotta back up those threats, and extortion, and I love games that do that. It's one of the reasons why Spartacus is, I think it's just off screen here, Spartacus is still in my collection. It's not the greatest game, but I love the treachery and the betrayal aspect of it. It's really, really fun. Now this seems to be kind of on the same pace as that, minus gladiatorial fights, which I thought looked really neat. But on top of all of this, you also have the game. Enemies from the game are actually encroaching in on Rome. So you're also, while trying to get to your victory and keep everybody else from theirs and screw over everybody else, you're also kind of trying to work together in a sense to keep these enemies at bay, because if the enemies ever end, like if a round ever ends and so many of the cities have been taken over by the game essentially, then everybody loses. So you all are kind of having to begrudgingly work together to stop this ever encroaching enemy, but also screw each other over at opportune times to get that viability and that the, you know, whatever your victory is, you're trying to get those points so you can screw everybody over. And I love when games do that. That's another one of my favorite mechanics. I hate you, I don't like you, we're not friends, but we have to begrudgingly work together, because that puts you in a lot of cool situations where how much do you help here? But with that said, how much is your enemy that you're working with, how much are they putting forth? Because what they don't put forth, they can then use against you later. I love that mechanic. But yeah, definitely Donning the Purple, I'm just going to say right now, is my Kickstarter boom of the week. And that is Kickstart Your Week. And as I just mentioned, Donning the Purple is going to be my Kickstarter for the week. Now, I don't know if just there aren't as many good Kickstarters coming out, or if I'm just getting more cynical on Kickstarter games, because it seems like for every game that I back and that I get in the mail that's really good, I get like 3 or 4 that wind up not being that good from Kickstarter. So maybe I'm just becoming more cynical, or maybe more selective with the Kickstarters that I think sound interesting, but I narrowed it down. I was able to get it to 3 this week. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure you kickstart your week the right way every week, and I'll see you guys next time in the quarantine.